What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today we're taking a deep dive into Gypsum Express. In this video, we're going to call a driver recruiter and see exactly what they're offering for a new driver. We're also going to take a look at their website to see if what they were saying matches up with what their website shows. On top of that, we're going to take a look at some online reviews to see what other drivers' experience has been working for Gypsum Express. And at the end of the video, I'll answer the question, okay or no way, would I, Trucker 219, go to work for Gypsum Express? So stay tuned for that, but for now, we're diving right in. Let's go.
Thank you for calling Gypsum Express. It's Mouse. Can I help you?
Hi, I was calling to see what it would be like to come to work for you guys. I should be graduating my CDL school, not this Friday, but next.
All right, and you're looking to get into flatbed, sir?
Yeah.
All right. So with this position here, you are required to be gone for 6 weeks for flatbed training, no guarantee home time. As far as this position is out 5 days, only home for your 34-hour reset. You are required to tarp and strap loads on a daily basis.
Okay. And then does that tarp pay anything?
Yes, $25.
$25 to tarp and untarp, or just tarp?
So when you're tarping, it's $25. If you have to untarp, it's $25.
Okay. And then you said for the training, it's 6 weeks. What is the pay while I'm going through training?
$750 before taxes.
$750 pre-tax per week?
Before taxes, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. And then after that 6 weeks, I'd be going solo in my own truck. What would the cents per mile be solo?
It's 50 cents loaded, 46 cents empty. After 90 days with no accidents, it goes up 8 cents.
Okay, so that's 50 loaded, 48 empty, and it goes up 8 cents after 90 days, you said?
50 cents loaded, 46 cents empty. And after 90 days with no accidents, it goes up 8 cents.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you so much. I'm sorry about that. And then what is the average miles per week?
We give our drivers 15 to 2,500 miles a week.
15 to 25. Okay. And then you already said home time. Is there any tuition reimbursement?
Yes. If we are the first school that you go, first company you go to from school, with that in mind, it's only $150 per month that is dished, given back out up until 6,000. Up until 6,000 amount.
Okay, up to $6,000. Got it. Okay, and then do you guys have cameras in your truck?
Yes, it's outside the truck.
Only outside?
Yes.
Okay. And then what are your guys' trucks governed at?
68.
Okay, and then do you guys offer any benefits for veterans?
Depending how long you was in the military, you either get a 1 set or a 2 set increase.
Okay, on top of that pay. And then is there anything like to be able to access the GI Bill or anything like that?
Yeah, so you would have to provide the award letter, and then we can go ahead and disperse the $150 per month.
Okay, gotcha. All right, sounds good. I appreciate you taking the time to talk with me today. I think you got all my questions. I'm calling around to see where I want to go to work for, and I'll be in touch if I decide to go with you guys.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Thank you. Bye-bye.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
All right, so I just got off the phone with Gypsum Express, and this is a flatbed carrier. And while they don't have a CDL training program, they would require you to go out with a trainer for 6 weeks, and that's paid out at $750 per week pre-tax. After that 6 weeks, you'll go solo, starting out at 50 cents per mile loaded and 46 cents per mile empty. They said you'd be averaging anywhere from 15 to 2,500 miles per week, and after 90 days, you would get an 8 cents per mile increase. So let's go ahead and flip over to the calculator and see what that pans out to be. So because they said that the empty miles were paid as well, I'm going to go ahead and put it at that high number of 2,500 miles and just go ahead and give that 50 cents at that 2,500 miles. So if we take 2,500 and multiply that by 0.50, you're looking at $1,250 pre-tax. But also keep in mind that they did say you would get a tarp fee of $25 to tarp and untarp the load. Now on average, I'm just estimating here, but you should have approximately 3 loads per week. And that's really all dependent on how far you're driving, but I think 3 is a fair estimate. So if all loads are tarped and you do 3 loads a week and you're paid $25 to tarp and untarp, that means you would get 6 times $25. And that's an additional $150 a week. So $1,250 plus $150 would put you at $1,400 per week. But keep in mind, this is pre-tax, so let's go ahead and take some tax out of that. And we're going to multiply that by 80% because that's the amount that you would keep. They take approximately 20% for taxes, and you're at $1,120 for the week after taxes. Now they did say after you get to 90 days accident and ticket free, you would get an 8 cents per mile increase. So real quick, let's run those same numbers after your 90 days. So take 2,500 and multiply that by 5.58, which is 58 cents per mile, and you're at $14.50 pre-tax. And the estimate for loads would still be the same whether you're at 90 days or day one. So we'll take that number and add another 150 to it, and you're at $1,600 pre-tax. And let's do the same thing as far as taking taxes out. And after 90 days, you should be making about $1,280 after taxes. Now, according to Gypsum, they do offer an increased cents per mile for veterans, and it's a 1 to 2 cents per mile increase based off of how much time you were in the military. So if you're a veteran, these numbers might be a little bit higher. Now, according to the recruiter, Gypsum Express's home time policy is 5 days out and then home for a 34-hour reset. If you're a new CDL graduate and have accrued some expenses to go through CDL school, Gypsum Express will pay out a tuition reimbursement of $150 per month up to $6,000. Finally, Gypsum Express does have outward-facing cameras, but they said they didn't have inward-facing, and their trucks are governed at 68 miles per hour. So let's move over to their website to see if their website is sharing the same information that the recruiter did. Real quick, I want to take a moment to shout out a new member on the channel, BJ Keeling. Thank you so much for the added support. It really makes a big difference. And if you want to become a member on the channel and get special badges and emojis and a shout out just like this one, I'll leave a link for that down below. Channel memberships are definitely not required, but the added support definitely makes a difference. Alright, so we're over here on their website and I found a little list of things that you'll need to bring to orientation. And these things include a commercial driver's license, a social security card, medical card, long form physical, a TWIC card if you have it, a voided check or bank card for direct deposit, proof of dependency if you plan on electing family health insurance coverage, and finally a certificate of eligibility if you are planning on doing the military apprenticeship program and have your post 9/11 GI Bill available. Alright, so we're on their jobs page and it looks like some locations actually have some home daily positions available. We have a Massachusetts location that's home daily, a Michigan location that's local flatbed. Looks like they're hiring some diesel techs as well. Over the road out of Pennsylvania. Let's click on this one and see what the job it looks like. All right, so Gypsum Express gives drivers the opportunity to earn as much as, okay, so there's some keywords there, as much as $85,000 annually and still enjoy weekend home time every week. All right, so new drivers, be on the lookout for phrases such as much as, or up to. That doesn't necessarily mean that you will actually make that figure. That's up to that amount or as much as that amount. All right, so they're Class A regional flatbed truck drivers, guaranteed weekend home time, competitive, strong pay scale with consistent annual raises. And here's another hot catchphrase that every trucking company has: the top industry pay with $50 tarp and untarp pay. Now, even though it's saying $50 tarp and untarp pay on their website, the recruiter said $25 for tarp and untarp. It also lists additional bonus programs including compliance, fuel, and annual safety. But you know, if you're looking for a company, you don't want to bank on the bonuses, you only want to bank on the for sure cents per mile. Okay, it says their drivers also receive detention, breakdown, and layover pay, which is good to know that if something out of your control is causing you to be held up, that they're going to pay for that time. Another hot phrase in the industry, late model equipment. That just means that they keep a relatively new fleet of trucks. 11 terminal locations, medical insurance. Looks like they have voluntary life, AD&D, disability, critical care, and accident insurance, pre-tax flexible spending accounts, 401k retirement, 40 hours of paid vacation after 1 year of employment. And that's kind of a big deal because most companies don't pay you for your time off. You go home and you don't get paid during that time. So it's nice to see they give you 40 hours of paid vacation after a year, 6 paid holidays in the year, tuition reimbursement for new qualified student drivers. And when we talked to the recruiter, that number was $150 a month up to $6,000. It also shows you'll get a $50 bonus for a passing DOT inspection. And it's also listing per diem programs, which is relatively common in the industry, but a lot of people misunderstand what per diem is. So a lot of people think that per diem is just additional money on top of your normal pay. And that's simply not the case. What per diem is a portion of the money that you make is tax-free. So for instance, with Gypsum, they said you'd make 50 cents per mile. Let's just say they give you 10 cents per mile per diem. That doesn't mean that you're making 60 cents per mile. That means that 40 cents of that 50 is taxable income and 10 cents is non-taxable income. And basically the purpose of per diem is to cover meal expenses and clothing and stuff that you need out on the road. So I just wanted to take the time to clear that up for everybody. Per diem is not additional cents per mile. It just means that a portion of your cents per mile is tax-free. But let's check out some online reviews to see what it's actually like to go to work for Gypsum Express. And right out the gate, we see that Gypsum Express is a 3.6 stars out of 5 based off of 155 reviews. reviews. Now, to be honest, that's not a whole lot of reviews, meaning that Gypsum Express is somewhat of a smaller carrier. And as always, we have these reviews sorted to newest. This way we can get the most up-to-date information. And it looks like Gypsum Express has selected a featured review, meaning that Gypsum believes that this is representative of their company. And this one is a driver out of DeMont, Indiana, and it just says, "This is an excellent entry-level job for CDL graduates. My first trucking job involved flatbed hauling, which presented a challenge, but my trainer was excellent and the pay was great." Moving down the line here, we got one from February 15th of 2026, "A good place to begin and stay. Most days start with a preloaded delivery. Some places take longer than others. Pick up another load and carry on. Sometimes 2 or 3, but usually 1 or 2. Flatbed so uncaring and strapping required." I'm not sure what so uncaring means, but alright. "You'll learn to maximize time and be a flatbed truck driver. Dispatch is a phone call away, but primarily you're the boss. Not really a workplace, but a lifestyle. It is what you make of it. The time away from home is the hardest part. The best part is keeping America moving." Yeah, this seems pretty indicative of the trucking industry overall, but being that Gypsum is a flatbed regional carrier, you'll haul between 1 and 3 loads a day according to this review. The next review is from July of 2025. "Great place for new drivers and experienced drivers." And the review says, "Great place to work. They really go above and beyond to take care of their drivers. Sometimes the pay and miles can fluctuate drastically, but that happens across the entire industry. Hands down, one of the best environments I've ever worked in." Okay, so this is big. If this is coming from a driver with other experience and saying that this is one of the best companies that he's worked for. Moving down here, we got another one from July of 25, and this is a driver out of Baldwinsville, New York. And the review says, "I love being a driver, but they made it difficult for me to keep loving it. Most of the management is okay. Head of HR is sketchy. They lie to cover their butt. I definitely don't like working for a company you can't trust. I will say this is definitely a company you cannot trust." They said the pros are benefits and good equipment, and the cons are communication and HR. And we got a 4-star here from a local truck driver out of Pennsylvania. "Fine place to work, good people, a lot of running if you can handle it, and untarping loads. Okay place to work." And it looks like we're continuing on into 2025, but we got a bunch of 5 stars here. "Good company, productive and fun place to work." Another 5 stars, "A nice company, solid to work with." And finally, we come across a 1-star here from February 13th of 2025, and this is a recruiting manager. And it just says, "Avoid this place, not a good culture." Now, I know recruiting has very little to do with what it's like to be a truck driver, but sometimes it's good to see what it's like in the work environment of the office, because a negative impact in the office could translate to a negative experience for the truck driver. And this review says, "Avoid this place if you're a recruiting professional. Overly vague recruiting objectives. Leadership only cares about the hires per week, but did nothing to facilitate changes to their recruitment practices. They don't care about establishing a recruitment strategy, finding new sourcing pipelines, or creating partnerships. Management does not set realistic expectations and doesn't foster a supportive environment to succeed. Unethical hiring practices by recruiting team. No formal training for new hires to succeed. A team member will either like you or stab you in the back." Wow, that's a really rough review coming from somebody that worked in the office. But overall, it looked like from the truck drivers that they were having a really good experience working for Gypsum. Alright, so you guys know that if I'm reviewing a company, I generally like to either talk to a driver or find some videos on YouTube from drivers sharing their experience about working for whatever company. However, when I flip over here to YouTube, all I'm seeing is a bunch of videos from Gypsum Express themselves, or some like training videos and things like that. Not a whole lot of drivers sharing their experience about working for Gypsum Express. And when a video is published by the company, they're not going to post anything that's negative about the company. So generally, I only take those with a grain of salt, because the company's only going to promote the positive things about their company, not the negative things. But that being said, I did find this video that might be helpful to new drivers looking to go to work for Gypsum Express. And this one is from Gypsum Express, but this is going over what an orientation will look like for them. So we're going to take a look at that right now. So they said this was an agility test, but it just seems like they're making sure drivers can do the functions of a flatbed driver, from lifting and carrying tarps to strapping them down to lifting and raising a hood. Okay, so they're just making sure that you can squat down and look at your fifth wheel to make sure that the pin is actually locked in place. That's a balance test, I guess. It looks like they're doing a DUI inspection. Yeah, I suppose balancing is kind of important too on flatbed, especially if the load is quite wide and there's a limited amount of space between the load and the trailer to walk on to get around certain things. So I guess that's fair and that has merit to do a balance and walking test. Okay, so it looks like they do a driving test too. Yeah, anytime you go to an orientation at any company, they have their own procedures of how their orientation looks, but it seems relatively common, especially in the flatbed world, to do some sort of agility test, and that's just to make sure that you can do the functions of doing the flatbed job. So now for the question, okay or no way, would I, Trucker 219, go to work for Gypsum Express? And the answer to that question is yes. Even though we weren't able to find a driver experience here on YouTube, if I was any other driver trying to make a decision to go with a company or not, I would have to use the information that is available to me. And based off of the information that we got from talking to the recruiter, looking at their website, and taking a look at some Indeed reviews, it seems like Gypsum Express is a pretty fair place to go to work. And to be honest, Gypsum Express is pretty much on par with what TMC was offering as well. So if you haven't had any luck getting on with TMC or one of the other flatbed carriers, Gypsum might be a good option for you. Their pay seems to be pretty standard starting out on flatbed, and like many other flatbed companies, the drivers are home on the weekends for a 34-hour reset. They offer tuition reimbursement. The recruiter said that they only have outward-facing cameras, and they do offer some benefits for veterans. Now, the only big difference between the recruiter phone call and what they were saying online was the tarping pay. According to the recruiter, it was only $25 to tarp and untarp the load. However, when we looked on their website, it mentioned $50 to tarp and untarp. So if you're wanting to go to work for Gypsum, make sure you get some clarification on that, as there's some contradictions between what the recruiter was saying and what the website was saying. And when it comes to the reviews that we looked at, there was a whole lot of positive and not a whole lot of negative, especially coming from drivers. So I would definitely go to work for Gypsum Express, but I want to hear from you guys. Based off of this information, would you go to work for Gypsum? And if you've already gone to work for Gypsum Express, leave your experience down in the comment section below. This way other drivers can get a feel for what it's like to work for them. And if you want to check out more deep dives just like this one, click the playlist right here. And as always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. All right, bye.